Okay, so I'm having an argument with one of my Facebook friends right now, and it's mostly regarding a picture she shared that was of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton that had a caption on it that basically said, if not for racism, these guys would have to go get real jobs. And what's really interesting is that, in a way, that is true. If not for racism, they would have to go get real jobs. But it's funny because if there wasn't racism, there wouldn't be a need for civil rights leaders. And her argument against it was essentially, or one of her friend's arguments against it, and also hers, so she backed her up, was that, well, they're advocating for, minority rights and black rights in particular, and not everyone, so that makes them racist. And I guess the thing that kind of really bothered me is that somehow the entire issue has gotten turned around. You're not allowed to advocate for any particular group without being some kind of bigot for that group. And you know what bugs me the most about it is, I think that the lady who I'm arguing with more than the one I'm friends with is making some assumptions about me. I think so much about some of the things that she says and some of the little code words that she says, and yes, I recognize them. I think people reveal more about themselves than they really realize and they intend to. And I don't think that she's racist or bigoted, but I think she actually might have an issue with some of the social problems that affect black people in particular, and she feels that people of my race are a burden onto our state because so many of us have been on welfare. Now, I've never experienced welfare. I grew up in a home where my parents, took care of me, and they both worked and went to college, so that's not my story. However, I've still experienced, especially in Omaha, coming from LA, I've experienced racism in Nebraska nonstop. Like, you have no idea. Like, when I first came out here, I get pulled over all the time. I get pulled over 3-4 times a year for nothing. For nothing. I've had police officers had me follow me like for miles on end for no reason, pull me over and like kind of fish around to see if there's anything wrong with what I'm doing. I had to sit in the police officer's car while he wrote me a fix-it ticket that I didn't have to do anything for. That it was the day after my wedding, in fact. I had a bunch of stuff in the back of my car, like all my wedding presents and like a bunch of things that we hadn't returned to the caterer yet. So it was obstructing the view. So he followed me for like about 5 minutes before pulling me over. And he pulled me over and he said, well, why aren't you wearing any shoes? And I said, well, my wedding was yesterday and my feet really, really hurt because my shoes were beautiful, but oh my God, my feet hurt. And he actually had me sit in his patrol car while he like talked about like one of my back lights had like was cracked and stuff. And I'm like, really? You seriously just followed me this entire time? I really don't think that some of the people who are skeptical about some of the civil rights leaders' claims have actually experienced racism. Like, I don't think they've ever really experienced what it's like to be a person of color in Nebraska. And this assumption that somehow if you agree with civil rights leaders, that you're some kind of racist because you're not also trying to uplift white people. But the fact is, things are not equal. There's a greater need for advocacy for people of color, and there's a greater need of advocacy for women in particular. And I'm sorry, but that's our reality, and I might be someone's token black person, that certain individuals like to keep around because she's the good black girl who speaks like a white person and married a white guy, and they're pretty conservative. But I'm still a person of color, and whether or not I'm more conservative than other people of color, I still see that on me. I still wear that. Okay, so I guess I'm just really upset and bothered that somehow I'm racist just because I think it's okay to try to uplift other communities that are very much so suffering. And this idea that somehow the suffering is equal within groups. Let me tell you something. I live in the West Side School District. Every high school student at West Side High School has a laptop provided by the school. Now, I can go 10 minutes over to North Omaha, where all the blacks live, and let me sell you something. What do you think their high school is like? What do you think their teacher to student ratio is like? Okay? So there is a greater need in minority communities. So, and just because I recognize that, and because I think it's okay to try to help that community and uplift them so they can get more, so they can put themselves in this position to be closer to the white communities, to get themselves up to that level, doesn't make me a racist. It doesn't make Jesse Jackson a racist. It doesn't make Al Sharpton a racist. And mind you, I'm the first one to say that oftentimes they get paranoid about things and just like go to drama level 10,000 and assume every little thing that someone did is racist. And I don't agree with that either, because come on now, not everything is racist. But I just had a really big problem with it. Like I seriously, I'm questioning some of the people that I'm associating with. I'm starting to wonder if they're only keeping me around as some kind of trophy token to show that, oh, well, you know, I'm qualified to spout ignorance and mistruths about civil rights and what the black community is and what civil rights means to people, because, hey, I have a black friend, I can do that. Well, you can't. So that's that.